Hi there, welcome back to AutoNet. And today I want to quickly just cover a small feature of Intern. Well, not a small feature, but a really cool feature of using Intern for your testing of your applications. Um, and Intern 4 was released not too long ago. I've done a video on Intern 4, just kind of a quick getting started with it. There's recently been a Pluralsight video that someone from SitePen did on Intern 4 getting started. I've gone over the video. It's really cool. It's like an hour and a half, couple hours or so. It's really good. It covers a lot of really good stuff in there, even functional tests, which I don't write many functional tests, but there's really good info in there and getting started with it. So I just want to cover a really cool feature of working with Intern 4, and that is utilizing code coverage to help you write your test and build out your test. So if I do a quick search here on coverage, we see we have a whole topic in here on code coverage. So let's go ahead and see how you might do that. Okay, so first let's go ahead and take a look at my application I have here. So my application is written in completely TypeScript. So I've got widgets in TypeScript here. All right, so I've got all my TypeScript for my widgets here. I've got uh, more widget stuff in here. So I want to be able to run my tests on this, but I also want to utilize code coverage to make sure that I am covering all of my code. All right, so what you want to do is you want to look at your intern.json, and I've explained a lot of these options before, the packages and everything to get your test working. But if we come down here and we look at a couple of things here, coverage. So in coverage, we're going to tell it what file we want to run the code coverage on. So I'm using Webpack to build this app. So for my testing, I output an init.js file. So I want to run my test on that and run my code coverage on that. But what Webpack is doing too is I'm also utilizing source maps and the Istanbul loader
Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople.
is going to go ahead and check those source maps and then tell me how much of my TypeScript code am I testing. Because if you don't do that, it's basically just going to tell you how much of your output JavaScript code are you testing. And that's not really useful because you're not writing in raw JavaScript, you're writing your code in TypeScript. So I don't care if line 133 of this JavaScript code is not tested because it's some sort of output from the TypeScript. I want to know what am I testing in my TypeScript, right? So this is the important part here. And then the reporters. So on the reporters, I'm just giving out a pretty reporter. I think runner is default. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing pretty, but I'm also, and that's just going to give me a console in my terminal. It's going to tell me what how my test coverage is, how my test pass and everything. Alcov is a type of coverage format that you could use in your continuous integration, and it'll put like you can use it to put like a small badge on your GitHub repo of how much test coverage you have. But another one I'm going to do that I don't normally do too often, but I do this to help me out, is I'm going to put HTML coverage. And if we come back to the documentation here, and I do a quick search for HTML coverage, I can see that it's one of the output options here to output my coverage data in HTML format. And we'll see how that's useful in a second. So in addition to outputting as HTML coverage, I'm also running my Chrome browser, but I'm going to go ahead and run it in a headless environment, which is what this line here tells it to do. So let's go ahead and run my test. So I just run npm test, and I've got Webpack doing its thing. So now I'm running the pretty reporter to run all of my tests. Cross my fingers, everything passes. Oh yeah, everything passed. And now I get a terminal output of my code coverage, which is really useful. For a quick glance, I can look and I can see that everything looks pretty good. Everything, I got all this green up here. However, the authenticate view model TypeScript code, I've only got 75% coverage in here. So this could be improved a bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this and see maybe where I can improve my code. You can see here it's telling you what the uncovered lines are, um, but just know I want to be able to examine my code a bit further to check it out. And one of the other things I'm not able to do when I'm using Webpack to run my unit test is I can't figure out how to remove the actual test themselves from the output of my code, my coverage here. I've done a bunch of stuff to try and remove it, and I can't figure it out. So if anyone can help me figure out how to remove these from my test coverage, I would really appreciate it. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and run a local HTTP server here. I'm going to go ahead and go to localhost, and I output everything gets outputted to a coverage folder. So this includes that alcov file as well as the HTML output. Okay, so here we go. So now I've got the HTML output of my coverage. Everything looks really good, except if I look here in the authenticate folder, I can see I've only got my 75% coverage. So now if I come in here, I can actually click on the file here, and the output code is going to show me where I am missing test coverage. So I have a function here where I am not covering this particular branch. So if this value is false, I need to check to see what happens in that branch. I'm not testing for that. And very similar to the same thing down here. I'm also not testing for that here. And it's also looking at these two things, I can see that they are pretty much exactly the same. So maybe that means I should probably break this out into its own function that I could test by itself instead of having to test in two different places. And I can look at the rest of the code here. I'm missing some coverage in here as well, and I'm not testing this entire method down here. Although this one I'm not too worried about testing, but I could maybe do something to test this out. The testing on globals like window location and stuff is tricky because they're tough to mock, I believe. They're read-only properties, so but maybe I can do something there. And I'm also not testing this function in here. However, I'm using this as a private function, so now if I want to test it correctly, I probably need to make it a public function so that I make TypeScript happy and stuff. But again, this is just something that I can go ahead and use this as a tool to go ahead and help me improve my current test I've already got. So again, I highly recommend that you check out Intern for your unit testing. It works out great for testing your ArcGIS JavaScript API applications, and it's really useful. And like I said, it comes built in with code coverage tooling and everything you need to be able to use it to help you write better tests. Thanks.